What's up, guys? This is Jeremy.
And this is James.
I hope you had an awesome week. Today we're going to be talking about...
Firefighters and sick people.
Not really.
What?
Be fierce and healing is right.
Oh, yeah.
See you on the other side.
Why do you keep saying that?
What are we talking about today, James?
Today we're going to be talking about a couple of the ministries that we've got going on.
A couple of them.
Just a couple.
We're going to spotlight 2 of the 4.
2 of the 4. And you know which ones they are because we've talked about this.
So
don't look at me like you're
I'm completely confused.
We're going to talk about All About Worship.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking.
No, we're not.
Just wanted to see your face. Now we're going to talk about Be Fierce.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about Healing is Right.
Healing is Right.
Now these are the 2... Healing is Right has been a long-standing ministry of ours.
It really has, probably the longest.
We've got a couple of free albums out from those, which is...
Well, that's not so true anymore. The latest CD is free.
The latest CD is
Miracles.
Free. Miracles is free, yeah. So we've got a couple of albums on Healing is Right that were written specifically for healing. So it's a great ministry we want to get behind. And then Be Fierce, we kind of just really started. It's in its infancy, but it really caters to men, right?
Absolutely. So we launched Be Fierce in June of this year, 2017. So if you're listening to this in 2020,
that's when we launched it.
Yeah, June 10th in 2020.
Now you're up to date.
So we launched 2 of these ministries that we're going to be talking about. The others are We Are the Roar and All About Worship. We Are the Roar we're going to save for another time. We want other people to speak into that. And All About Worship, we're going to talk about that more at the end and how we're going to bring that.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to spotlight Be Fierce and Healing is Right today.
So which one do we want to start with?
Let's start with Be Fierce.
Be Fierce, all right.
Be Fierce Men's Ministry. I've got a few things written down here, but basically we wrote some mission statements for all of our ministries. How about that?
How about that?
That's pretty good to start with.
You should do that.
Be Fierce. At least this is what we have at this time. That can always sort of grow and transition with us, but this is sort of our due north as we started Be Fierce.
Yeah.
Our mission is to minister to men, women, and families all over the globe. We do this currently through community and discipleship models and teaching.
Love that.
How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds very professional.
It belongs on a website or something.
I'll get behind that.
On a cue card.
So we're really focusing on the men part. So it is something that's going to grow
at this point,
eventually to women, children, families.
That's right.
But for right now, it's just we're going to dive into the men at the head of the house.
That's right. And it started, we probably told this story before, but it started because when we would travel as a team with Here Be Lions and with Dustin and the guys and the girls, we would go into churches and we would end up ministering to men.
Yeah.
Every time. We even had times in the back before we would go out and minister, and Dustin would talk to us in a circle, and he would say, now we're not going to minister to men tonight. Because it almost felt like a gimmick, like we know how to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And so him being the spiritual leader was like, hey, we're not going after that. Let's believe God for something new. And inevitably, we would minister to the men that night.
Yep, without fail.
And Dustin would lead the charge.
Yeah. Something just drew us to that group of people.
Absolutely. And so we really felt like, as opposed to the other group of people.
Yeah, the other group of other people that were there.
I was going to let that go, and I decided not to.
Yeah, I looked at Guy, and Guy was like, what the heck are you talking about?
That group of people, specifically called men. So,
you know who you
are. If you're going to start a ministry, target 50% of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it more like six? I don't know.
Oh.
I'd have to do the math on... Not my own math. I'd have to research that.
Yeah.
Garner, can you look that up for us? Find out if 50%, because I'd love to prove
You got a computer sitting in
wrong.
front of you. Why are you using your phone? Anyway, Be Fierce Men, guys, and gals, is a ministry specifically at this time for men because God really laid it on our hearts that if you can change men, listen to this. This is how it was explained to me. Pastor James, I'm actually going to steal this. Thanks, buddy. So he actually was talking to me about if you can change the men from the top level down, let's look at the White House. If you can change the men in the White House, you could really affect some things in our Congress like that, in our leadership.
Yep.
You step down and you say, man, if you could change just the men in your state government, right? That'd be wonderful. You could your state would probably, if you could just change the men, spirit-filled, get them in passion about something, you could really change something. Go all the way down to your community. If you could change the mayor, the board of directors, the education people, and the men, you could change your community. And if you could change the man in your house, you could change that family. So from the top down, if you minister to men, 50 what? 50%. Garner, you can talk.
It's 50. It is 50%?
I told you. It would make sense that God made it that way.
It's a give or take for what?
It's 107 boys to 100 girls.
So that's not 50%.
It's about 50%.
No, you're saying 50% to agree with him. It's not
50%.
No, I think that's flawed.
Maybe it's like when you consider like
107 to 100 is not 50%. I just want to say that.
That is mathematically correct.
But
maybe
it's
they're
pretty
considering,
close.
like,
Doesn't make it
as far
a
as
fact.
their productivity in the world.
Oh, you're stepping on that can
A
of
little
worms?
bit, a little bit. That's why we
Okay.
started a ministry for them.
Podcast at herebelines.org. You know who to contact.
That is our email, and we'd love for you to email us. Men's
Back.
ministry.
Yeah,
If you
men's
can
ministry.
change the men from the top down, you could really make a difference in our world.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
especially when you're talking about in the church, okay? And this is not a ministry that's ignoring women or families. You better not believe that. If you're going that way and you were already too far, you're an idiot if you think that way. Let's just say that. Basically, this is not a ministry against women or excluding children or anything like that. It's basically saying, let's have the men take their rightful position so that the women and children can be empowered to take theirs.
Absolutely. I
Right?
love that, yeah.
So with that mission statement, we have a little bit of a story here we'd like to tell you. Be Fierce has been providing daily devotionals since that conference kicked off.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And that'd been awesome.
One of the things we've talked about with that conference is conferences end and movements don't. We want Be Fierce to be a movement of people and not a conference. Does that mean conferences are bad? Absolutely not. We'll have more of them. But we want to start this through community and discipleship to really bring men into this ministry that's something that's going to last. One of the ways we're doing that is devotions. There's a guy that's been reading that devotion. Where does he live? Where does Bo live?
Colorado.
He's in Colorado.
Colorado.
That's right. I knew that.
Yeah.
Beauty, Colorado.
Up in the mountains.
So, Bo, there's
The
a guy
mountain
named
man.
Bo, okay? Just go to Colorado with us in your mind. It's a beautiful mountains.
Oh, it's blue
Elk,
sky.
trout
Oh,
are jumping out of the water. And there's all these weird people in Denver that we don't talk about.
And lots of spandex. People are hiking.
Yeah.
What? Is
Okay, we went too far.
I say sorry.
Bo
carry
lives in Denver.
Bo lives in Denver.
And he has been using these devotionals, not to just go through himself personally. Dustin told me this story. He has been meeting with his work men
Yeah.
that he works with. And I
Yeah.
believe as volunteer firemen.
Yeah, he's a volunteer firefighter up there in Colorado.
And he's been meeting with those guys to go through these devotions, which is awesome because now it has put him in a position, he and his wife, to be able to minister to even guys and gals, their wives, in that group. And they're coming to Bo and Carrie now for spiritual advice and mentorship.
And it's actually a really powerful story because they were provided a tool. All they needed was that tool of devotions to be like, hey, we're going to share these with my workmates, my volunteer firefighter guys.
What a great way to do that.
Who I fight with and I'm friends with. And we're just going to share this
And
stuff.
like firemen, that's like a manly
it's
deal.
like a manly deal. It's like, this is great. We got to go film those guys up there and be like, hey, do the devotions. And now coming out of that is, there's been some opportunities to be able to talk one-on-one with these guys and their
It's awesome.
families and invest into them. And that is the impact of providing just a small, what some would say is a small tool,
Right.
that can impact an entire community.
And there's lots of stories coming out of Be Fierce. And we were going to tell those stories. But that's like a dot on the map of what we're trying to do. But that is an awesome,
That is an
awesome dot.
Yeah, it's a big dot.
Like you said, for him to be able to take a tool like that and to actually impart it into his community around him. And now he is discipling and creating community with that tool.
Yeah, love it.
Pretty awesome. Be Fierce is going to have a lot more stories like that as we continue to grow. We're very excited about some other guys that are going to be stepping into Be Fierce, and they'll even be on this podcast.
They will be. We'll be introducing them and highlighting them and what they're doing in their local community. So it's pretty awesome.
Let's spotlight another one.
Speaking of that, speaking of just like the dot on the map, is Healing is Right.
Oh, that was good.
Healing is Right is actually, now this started pretty small, but it's growing pretty quickly. But we don't usually, besides social media, we don't really push it all that much. We just want to let it do what it does.
Right.
But I think it's time now that we start telling some stories. If you follow Healing is Right on Facebook or Instagram,
Which you should,
you're going to see a lot of these things kind of coming out, a lot of testimonies coming out. There's a lot of healing ministries out there and that are doing great work. But this is something that, like the devotionals, you can take into your home and really start to push this as a healing ministry to your community. So I just want to read some stories here. I'm just going to read some testimonies of things that have happened because Healing is Right is out there.
Should we put the mission out there first?
Yeah, go for
As
it.
we get into it. Healing is Right. Our mission is to bring hope and life to the hurting and the sick. We do this currently through albums, teaching, prayer ministry, and healing resources. And we say this is our tagline. I love this. Everyone knows someone sick. Help us help them.
And that's it. And really, I just want to put this out there. Healing is Right was never intended for us, Jeremy, James, Garner, our team, to go out and pray. Even though we do that, it was intended to be a tool for everybody to be able to grab onto and go, now we can provide healing for those in need. So that whole statement, everybody knows someone sick, help us help them, rings true. It should be ringing in your heart and soul right now. But here's a couple of testimonies just to let you know that this is the power of it. Kit is a 5-year-old, okay, diagnosed with leukemia.
Hey.
So we were all praying for Kit.
Yeah, I remember that
along
coming
with
through.
a lot of people were praying for Kit. And we were just praying for a miracle because no 5-year-old should have to deal with leukemia.
Yeah, seriously.
And it just came out.
Or parent, yeah.
Yeah, or parent. And it just came out. Kit completely beat cancer.
That's
came
awesome.
Came out of the hospital cancer free. Can now live as a normal child.
That you should just stop.
Super powerful. No, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue.
Yeah. Anytime you're talking about kid, though, that just experiences
it
life.
does. It does. And now that's the life and the power of God.
That's awesome.
Working through this ministry. Here's another one, like on the other spectrum. I'm not an outgoing person. I didn't want to hold back from what God wants because of my personality, though. Obviously very introverted. Healing is Right has been my tool to share the gospel. Now God has the ability to work through me and not just to me. And that's a powerful statement in itself.
Right.
Which means that no one gets off the hook. Those of you listening, if you're introverted, it's still a tool that you can use. This one was diagnosed with cancer. This is from Michael. Started listening to the Healing is Right album. I believed God was moving my mountains. God Who Moves the Mountains, one of the songs on there. And now the cancer, he went in for a test. Cancer's completely gone.
Fantastic.
And no explanation about it.
That's awesome.
Another one here. Let me just pull it up real quick.
We get these testimonies a lot.
A lot. A lady when you had a cataract.
Okay.
That's annoying.
That's close to my heart right now.
Yeah, close to your heart, with your eye. She was scheduled for surgery. We prayed for her complete healing. The next day she went in and the doctor completely cancelled her surgery because the cataract was no longer there.
Wowza. That's awesome. And saved money.
I mean, when you look at stuff like that, you're like, what?
Here's one. I'm looking at him too because we've got it pulled up.
Yeah.
There's a guy or gal, I guess it's Eden or Eden. My name is Eden from India, and I had a digestive system problem and a heart problem. Please pray for me in the ministry. Okay, so that was his prayer ministry. That was his prayer request. A few weeks later, we got this. Thank you for your ministry and your prayer. I'm quite well now. My report is everything is normal. I'm amazed that your prayer and my belief work together.
That's awesome. That's powerful.
From India.
That's powerful. We
That's
love
really
that. I got a couple more here, just real quick. Had Parkinson's disease, was taking over 15 medications a day, listened to healing music every day, and then the doctor said she had no more signs of the disease. Woke up one day completely healed from Parkinson's disease.
That's awesome.
Which is really awesome. Let's just do one more.
Yep.
Daughter gave birth 32 weeks premature.
Oh, that's really early.
That's really early. Played the Healing is Right app every single night, focusing on the baby. And I know this is close to your heart too,
Yeah.
because with Nolan, you kind of did the same thing.
did.
They played it. Came back. We got our miracle. She came back home after only 10 days in the hospital, a complete healthy baby, and that's from the Philippines.
That's awesome.
So 32 weeks premature. So we're getting these kind of testimonies regularly. Now, if you've got a testimony that you want to share, you can go. Obviously, there's a place that you can write down your testimony. Everyone needs to hear that. People need to hear that because your testimony can be their prophecy, can be their future. And
I'm just reading through I haven't even seen a lot of these, man. My mom is fully healed. Every sign of the infection is gone.
Yep.
That's another one. 24 pounds of fluid left my body.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? This person prayed for somebody in Starbucks and they got healed.
They got healed, yeah.
So Healing is Right. All these testimonies are coming in, and it's awesome to see the good. But also, you can help us with that because all of these land where? On a prayer wall.
On a prayer wall. So you can go to the app or the website, and there's a prayer wall there that lists all these prayer requests. And what we encourage you to do is go to that prayer wall every day. We kind of make it a point. I make it a point to go on there every morning.
Yeah.
And you get on there, and you just start reading through and just start agreeing with this and click on that thing. Hey, I prayed for this. And then just do a prayer. It doesn't have to be a lengthy prayer. Just pray and stand in agreement because all of us praying in agreement, we believe God can do some really powerful miracles.
So just to wrap it up, I just wanted to say, we are creating these are just two of the things that we're talking about.
These are two tools that
these
we're
are
using.
Two tools. Write a shirt or something. So with that, we have Healing is Right. We have Be Fierce. Both have an app.
Yep.
Both can be downloaded today on these people's phones.
Yep.
On their any kind of device that you have, an iPad.
Yep.
Can also you download these apps and they become tools. So why did we create them? Like Dustin said a few weeks ago on this podcast, our goal is to create tools to equip people that need equipped and to resource people that need resources.
Yeah.
Right? And so people already, you are meeting people, you know people that will never know. You work with people that will never work with. You're friends with people that will never be friends with unless you introduce us, and that's really nice because we probably need more friends.
I want some friends.
So, but these are people that God has put you to influence. And so we're creating tools because God asked us to do something. Right?
Right.
quick story here, and then we'll be done, and we'll have this little segment that James is already getting ready for. I love it. The verse of the day.
Verse of the day.
A few weeks ago, we were in church here in Tennessee, here in Nashville. We went to church, and there was a missionary that got up and spoke. He's a missionary in Cambodia.
Yeah.
He spoke for about 30, 40 minutes and just told story after story after story of bringing Christ into a very non-Christ area. 95% Buddhists in Cambodia. And he felt like God called him. He's from South Georgia. Big guy, talks Southern. You would never pick this guy to go to Cambodia and win people. And he felt like one day God said, "You're going to go to. I'm calling you to Cambodia." And he said, "Where, God?" He said, "To the hills of Cambodia." He said, "God, what do you want me to do there?" He said, "I want you to be a farmer. I want you to take up farming to reach the farmers in the hillside of Cambodia."
Because predominantly there are rice farmers out there too.
He did it.
So he did it.
He did it. This was years ago, and now the guy's running schools, teaching kids to read. He's basically empowering people to get demons out of their homes.
Yep, he's building up churches.
Powers over there that were killing people, dark powers that were killing people. He's introducing these people to Jesus, and they are setting people free. And now entire villages are asking questions of this guy.
Yep.
How do you know this man that beats these spirits? Are you kidding me? I listened to this guy for 30, 40 minutes. I walked out of church, and I said, man, there's a guy who's doing what God's asked him to do. His name's Chad. Okay, look him up. I don't know his last name. I wish I did. We'd promote him here on this podcast. But on a Sunday morning, I walked out and I said, Chad's doing what God asked him to do. And I walked out and I said, God, forgive me because sometimes I make it so difficult. What have you asked me to do? I think that's a great question for us.
It's a great question for anybody.
Our ministry, our listeners today. If you're listening to this podcast, if you don't have 100% passionate, powerful, moving answer to the question, what has God called you to do? Stop everything.
Take a breath.
Take a breath. Don't get so complicated. Become simple and say, God, what have you called me to do? Now, don't ever let that override the community. Don't ever let your personal calling get in the way of what God's called you to as a people. They're going to be in agreement, but we're past that, right? I hope that we're past that. God has called you to be somebody, to be something in the area that you are.
Absolutely.
What is that? And if you can figure that out, then I could listen to you talk the same way as I did Chad. 30 minutes, 40 minutes later, and I'd walk away, man, they're doing what God asked them to do.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes it's a question that we just kind of glaze over a lot of the time and go, man, what does God really want me to do? You get so caught up in the ways of just doing life, and you're like, what am I doing?
Right.
You know, so I think that's great, just to sit down and listen to this podcast over and over again.
Step back.
And then figure out, what am I doing?
This specific podcast.
This specific podcast.
Just to wrap that up, and you've got your thing here.
I got
the
my
Bible says this. It says, people perish for a lack of what?
Purpose.
Purpose, vision.
Same thing.
We'll edit that in. Say vision.
Vision.
My people perish for a lack of vision. And this is encouraging, right? I've always heard that preached. And this week I was thinking, well, wait a second. What's the opposite of that? If the lack of vision brings death, then the presence of vision should bring
life.
You nailed that one. 10 out of 10. So sit down this week. Say, God, what is your vision? What is my purpose? And you know what? That'll bring life. If the lack of vision causes death in your life, reset yourself. Get life by figuring out the purpose of God in your life.
Amen.
Vision. All right. And now, James's verse of the day.
Music, please. In those days, Hezekiah became ill and was at the point of death. I think we all know what that means. So healing is right, obviously.
We're not ending with that, right?
Healing is right is something you should
I'm
go to.
still not sold on this segment.
And then go to Be Fierce, download the apps, and we'll see you next week.
Wait.
All
Where
about
are
worship.
you going? Jeez.
All about worship. Well, we're wrapping up. Garner's like doing this like the whole time.
I know
he's waving
he
his
is, but
finger
he
saying,
doesn't get to tell. Well, he does a little bit. All About Worship is another ministry that we have, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
We're going to be talking about with who?
I don't know.
Yes,
Who?
you do.
Dustin Smith.
Dustin Smith is going to be talking to us about what is All About Worship.
Yeah, and what
Have
are we
an
doing
awesome
with it?
week. Now we're going to wrap up.
What? And right now with the verse?
No, we already did the verse.
Okay, bye.
Bye.